Welcome back to The Watch. Today we are going to be talking about something a little bit more positive. Tales of the Jedi. We've both watched it and we both like it. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk. So I suppose we should start off with our initial impressions of the show, what we thought of it. And I gotta say, I was pretty impressed from the start, even if it was just an Ahsoka episode that was really, pretty slow, but it made sense, which is very rare for Star Wars. So already I was like, okay, let's give this little one a go. But then we got to some other characters, which we will get into. And, oh boy, these episodes were just... It's been a while since I've gotten that feeling from Star Wars where I'm like, I actually want to continue watching. I want to know where this goes.
We've both spoken about this off camera. We both enjoyed it. We did feel as though the Ahsoka episodes were a bit unnecessary.
Yeah.
There wasn't really much adding to the overall story. They were just tacked on. But it's not as if they were bad in themselves. They were still good. They were still solid episodes. It just felt could have did with more Dooku.
Yeah. So I think overall, just to close out, you should probably give this show a watch if you're a Star Wars fan.
Definitely.
It'll give you that little fix. I mean, they're not long episodes, but at this point, take what you can get.
They are very short, right?
Yeah, they are.
Like 15 minutes, something like that. It's crazy short.
And yet, so much is achieved in the Dooku episodes that it's really worth talking about. So I reckon we should just go into it. We'll talk... Now, I'm wondering how we should break this up. Should we go Dooku episodes and then Ahsoka ones?
We'll start with the Dooku ones. Start with what we like.
We'll start with the good ones. All right. So, with the Dooku episodes, I like how it kind of plays with us a little bit, because they don't say Dooku and Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
They kind of just go with, these are two Jedi.
Yeah.
They're on a mission. They're doing something.
Yeah.
And we basically learn that they've come to a planet and it's not in a good place. There's some really good environmental storytelling here where we see this place it's a wasteland. There's no plants growing. The people look all miserable and starved.
It's a good prelude, because the original films, the prequels I should say, don't actually do a good job of explaining what led to the Separatist uprising, what led to the Civil War, which is central to the prequels. And this can show you at least a little bit what was actually going on. There was a reason.
Yep.
There was very good reasons why so many planets defected to the Separatists, especially a lot of alien worlds, because of how they were being treated, how they were being run, corruption in the Senate, and what was perceived as corruption with the Jedi, because they were seen as lapdogs for the senators.
Yeah, and they take it slow with this first episode, and they just walk us through this town, and we learn pretty quickly about our two characters, which is Dooku and Qui-Gon. And they enter a bar, and basically, they ask for, we're here to go get this kid who's been kidnapped, the kid of a senator.
Yep.
We want them. And Dooku immediately shows off a very interesting part of his character, because his first instinct is to pull out his lightsaber and try and get this done as quick and as cleanly as possible.
Yes. One of my favourite character traits of Dooku. I don't know if I would have the patience. But this is what they're showing you. They're showing you that he is a Jedi already.
Yeah.
Who can be easily pushed down that path. He wants to go down that path more than anything else, really.
Yeah.
So you get to see their specific dynamic as a master and apprentice, because they were very unorthodox. Sort of like an Obi-Wan and Anakin, how unorthodox they were.
Yeah. There is a lot of mirroring going on between the two that I did notice, especially with how Qui-Gon looks and how even Dooku looks.
He looked weird. I'll be honest. Qui-Gon looked odd.
Yeah.
It didn't look like Liam Neeson. It looked very... I'm not sure who they were going for.
Because I thought it was like, it looks a little like Anakin. Just a bit.
Yeah, a bit, I guess.
But it was definitely... Because that was the part that threw me off, where I'm like, hang on, I heard this was about Dooku. Is that actually Qui-Gon? And then we learn, obviously, it was.
Yeah. Then we go down to where the senator's child is being...
Yeah, but one thing I want to get to is basically they interrogate these people and learn very quickly most of them are responsible for it, but it's Qui-Gon who's
Yeah.
like speaking to this old lady that says she implies she's done it, and he picks up on it really quickly, which shows Qui-Gon's perception, which
Yeah.
is good. But then you get Dooku's perception, which is even better, where he's like, they're all in on it.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that little master knowing a lot more than his apprentice.
And he was ready to take them all, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Dooku was absolutely on that path.
Well, he came to get a job done, so
Yeah.
of course he's going to get it done.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, we're then led to where the child is being kept, and we learn, interestingly, the kid is
Bit of Stockholm syndrome.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Look,
Well, the thing is, his father is representing their planet
Yeah.
in the Senate, so obviously he wants to care about them. But they have kidnapped him.
yeah.
Let's be honest.
The thing is, though, that is interesting about this episode, and that I found lacking from so many Star Wars things that we've watched, is the motivations are all very clear.
Yes. Yeah.
I can understand why these people kidnapped this kid.
Yeah.
I can understand why the kid feels this way about what's happening here and how he's frustrated with his father. And then when we get his father showing up with a group of soldiers,
Yeah. It becomes very incendiary very quickly.
yeah.
And this is where you see Dooku actually flip-flop a little bit.
Yeah, it's
because you can see that at this point he's barely gone down the path.
No, yeah.
So he sort of switches and goes, okay, well now I want to protect the little guys, which is something that most
Yeah.
Jedi would do anyway. But yeah, it's good to see how Dooku's still... He's very quick to violence, very rash, sort of like Anakin in that
Yeah,
way.
a bit.
But he's also still got a good heart, at least at this point, just like Anakin, who would still try and do the right thing when he could.
Yeah, it's very interesting how Dooku approaches pretty much everything, and I was hanging on to every line that he would say,
Yeah.
because I've noticed he's very attentive,
Yeah,
and he knows very easily when someone's lying.
yeah,
And because he questions the child, the
yeah,
senator's kid, about what he's really feeling,
yeah.
and he learns pretty quickly how that goes.
With Dooku being sort of like that flip-flop between good and a little bit fast and loose with the rules, you get why Qui-Gon was so adverse to being in the Jedi Council when the prequels
Yeah.
came around, and why he was considered so had those roguish elements. Definitely traits of Dooku's.
Oh yeah, especially given this show. And what I found really interesting is because we've often seen Dooku as this bloodthirsty Sith Lord. So it was really cool to see him actually go through the motions of this moment, because this senator is willing to kill these kidnappers.
Well, we did see a little bit of it in the Clone Wars. In the Clone Wars, in the first few seasons, Dooku's
yeah?
very he's not wholly evil. It's more in the later seasons that he's starting to be pretty.
Yeah, when he starts doing like the blood sacrifices
like
and stuff
he's
like that.
really down that path. Like, so I think that you got to see a little bit of a more. He was still doing evil things in the Clone Wars, but he was balanced. He wasn't like just out there recklessly doing everything. You know?
Yeah. I suppose what I'm trying to get at is we've seen him mostly as a villain. So
Yeah,
it was really cool to have him try to stop this senator from committing violence, and just how he handles it, just standing there is like, we're not moving.
Yeah.
You're not going to make us. You are going to stand down. And just escalation keeps on getting there.
You got to remember that the senator also commanded
Yeah.
the Jedi. Like the townspeople had the idea that the Jedi are just puppets of the Senate. The senator himself just went, "Hey, you're doing what I'm saying. That's it."
Yeah.
And so I think Dooku, as soon as he was, it's like reverse psychology. As soon as you tell him to do something, even if he knows he should or would do it, he goes, "No, I don't want to do it anymore."
Yeah. And essentially this whole scene is just leading us to a certain moment. So lots of little things happen, and it starts off like sort of the senator orders his troops to advance.
Yeah.
But then when the civilians come, the kidnappers draw their rifles, then it starts getting even more intense. And it's basic cause and effect, and I know it seems weird to praise this, but we really haven't gotten that much of just the normal things that would happen.
Well, I would argue that we haven't seen a Jedi wield a lightsaber properly in quite some time. So
Yeah,
I was
that
just happy
too.
seeing that.
Yeah, when it gets to the point where the senator goes, fire, and Dooku draws his lightsaber in defense of them. It's
something that I found interesting that we got to see was we got to see Dooku's Jedi lightsaber.
Yeah.
And it's very much similar to his Sith lightsaber. It's just the design is a little bit different. Personally, I was very happy to see that.
Yeah, it's cool to see that he kept that design, and that design, I believe it has like an effect on how he moves and fights.
Well, it's a curved lightsaber hilt, so how he holds it is a little bit different, because I think Sir Christopher Lee himself was a fencer.
Yeah.
And so the curved hilt actually allowed him in the movies to use it.
Yeah, there was a lot of that I noticed as well. It seems like they paid attention to how Christopher Lee moved as Dooku and wanted to animate that as best as they could.
Yeah.
To just try
some of the best fights in all of the Clone Wars are Dooku's ones.
Oh, yeah.
Like, for example, when they're on Pike, when it's Anakin and Kenobi fighting Dooku on Pike, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. And it's just that one thing that Christopher Lee brought to the table, and that's influenced that character. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad to see it. And so the fight goes on for a fair bit, but then there's eventually a halting in the firing. The senator stops them. And he wants, essentially, to intimidate everyone into just bowing down. But Dooku goes forward and just says, no, I'm not going to move. You've made your intentions clear, and it's my job to defend the people of the Republic. I believe the senator said something like, no, your job's to... It's for me, the Senate.
Yeah.
And there's already that conflict brewing.
Yeah, especially in Dooku, because I don't think he's ever confronted it that sort of way. It was very front and center in this thing that you are a puppet of the senators. That's how the galaxy seems to see it now, and that's how he sees it, and he doesn't gel with that.
Yeah, and it's also interesting that it's happening really right where Qui-Gon is young.
Yeah,
so that means this corruption has been happening for a very long time.
I don't know if I would call it corruption just yet. I would say he's getting very disillusioned with the Jedi way right now.
I wouldn't say Dooku being corrupted. Senate corruption.
Oh, the Senate corruption. That's been around.
So I think
it's days.
Yeah, it's just nice to have that acknowledged, because it lends legitimacy almost to why people would join the Separatists.
Well, the thing is, if you actually look at why the Separatists became a thing, it was very justified. It wasn't as if it was a more propaganda from the Republic side of why the Separatists left, that it was unfounded. It was all, there's no corruption here, there's none of that. But the Separatists were pretty justified. It's just that the Sith had co-opted both of them.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we'll get to that, because that comes up in this show. And essentially the fighting continues, but the senator... Now, I'm a bit of a nitpick here. I'm not sure why he turned around and said exactly what his intentions are going to be, which is, I'm going to destroy this village, I'm going to make an example of it.
Well, it's like children throwing their toys out of the pram.
I suppose I could buy that, but it's like, Dooku's already... And the Jedi have already turned on you. You're on shaky ground. Maybe you should hold off.
But just remember, if you're a senator and you genuinely believe that the Jedi serve the Senate, if you say you're going to destroy a village, what are they going to do?
I suppose, you can look at it from that angle, that the senator is just... I mean, he's certainly arrogant enough to believe that he can get away with all of it.
Exactly.
I mean, he's done it for so long, so why would he...
He's opened fire on a Jedi and on civilians, so, I mean, I don't see why he would think he couldn't get away with that as well.
I suppose so. Maybe it's just me thinking saying it to Dooku is the problem, but then again, Dooku would have...
It's not
in his mind, the Jedi probably would bow down and go, no. Okay, so fair enough.
You got to remember, like... Later on in the episodes, we see Mace Windu. It's like, if it was any other Jedi, they probably just would have stepped aside. Yeah. They would have followed the orders. So we can sit here and say, as the viewer, oh, well, it's Dooku, so he shouldn't have said it to Dooku, but it's not like he knows.
That's true. And honestly, it does lead us to a very good moment, and that just sets up everything so well. And Dooku decides to, use a little different method. He decides to strangle this senator, and I found it very interesting that while he's advancing and really wanting to kill this guy...
He eats Qui-Gon back.
He pushes Qui-Gon away.
Straight back to the barn,
just to, get him out of the way, which Qui-Gon takes as a good opportunity to actually go and...
Well, you can tell that this is probably not the first time this has happened. And,
Yeah,
and that's
you can.
that's why Qui-Gon was like straight away like, all right, I got to go get something to stop the situation. So it's definitely probably not the first time that Dooku's lost control or wanted to solve things in a more permanent way.
Yeah. And the thing is, though, they could have easily just had him cut down the guards as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, I feel like that would have been... But the fact that they actually paid attention and had him just push the guards away, acknowledging that he's not angry at them.
Yeah.
He just is furious with this senator. And that's some care that we haven't really seen too much in Disney Stars, because there's a lot of moments where they just don't talk about certain little people dying. So, to see that, it kind of gives you that indication of he's definitely not your typical Jedi that's going down the dark Sith path. He can control it.
Yeah, well, Dooku... The thing is, a lot of people haven't really looked that much into Dooku as a character, and he's always been one of my favorite characters, because he is a Jedi master, and he is considered to be one of the best swordsmen the Jedi have ever produced. And his outlook is very much all about control, and even when he goes to the dark side, he still views it through a lens of, I can control it. He's not like Maul or something like a Sith like that, who's just, you know, pure rage. He's all about control.
Yeah, and you can see that here, even though he hasn't obviously turned yet. This is very early into his...
very early in his arc.
So, it was just a nice moment, and I do like that he gets really close to just striking down this senator, and it's only Qui-Gon and the senator's son that stops it.
Yeah. Well, I think it's more Qui-Gon's quick thinking.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I know I've got to go get the kid or something like that. Something to settle him down. Yeah.
Which is good, because it's good to see that Qui-Gon...
was sort of that balance.
Yeah.
And then once Qui-Gon has become a knight and he's on his own path, you can tell that Dooku, that's when he starts to go down a different path.
Yeah. It's like an anchor for him. So, and I did find it interesting, though, that after the whole matter is resolved, Dooku still feels bitter. He's not convinced that anything will really change.
Well, he's not wrong.
And look, to be fair, considering what we end up getting later, he isn't wrong. But I like how Qui-Gon has that more optimistic view. It's like they are really two sides of the same coin. They both definitely have problems with the Jedi Council.
Yeah.
But they go about it in a bit of a different way.
Well, you got to remember that it seems that Qui-Gon was very much the rebel in the same way that Dooku was, because as we see in a later episode, Dooku is willing to do, even if the council doesn't want him to, he's willing to do it.
Yeah.
And we get that in episode 1 with Qui-Gon. He wasn't really supposed to train Anakin, but he's like, well, I'm just going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So cut from the same cloth very much.
Oh, we get a little moment as well towards the end of the episode where Dooku deflects a little bit when Qui-Gon compliments him. It's almost as if he is recognizing that he did act a bit dark, and he's kind of guilty of it. It's just this little line, but it means, I think it has a lot of meaning to it, because, as you said, it's clear this has happened before.
Yeah.
And it must have been before Qui-Gon has stopped it another time. So the fact that he was like, no, it's not me that is good. You were you're a wiser man than me. I just, I've got my faults. Yeah. So it was good to see that bit of recognition, and I really like their relationship.
I do too.
It's a good dynamic.
It's a very, because if you see in like things like the Clone Wars, you get to see different Padawan relationships. I think like between Luminara and Dooley and Barriss Offee. You see that that's not the normal relationship. The Anakin Obi-Wan relationship, the Qui-Gon Dooku relationship is not the normal Padawan relationship with a Jedi. It's very much strictly work sort of thing. So I do like that their relationship is more of a close one. But then again, it also lends credence to the fact that it seems he fell to the dark. Now you could blame it on Qui-Gon. I think I don't think he did. I think that was more of a cop out. Like, I'm already down this path. I want to go down this path. I'm going to go down this path for Qui-Gon's sake. But it does lend to the theory that when they have these relationships that are so close, it does lead you down more of a darker path than.
Yeah, I mean, there's that whole danger that has been brought up a bunch of times in the Star Wars universe of getting too attached,
Yeah.
and that is what is quite dangerous. But I guess I was really happy with this episode. I mean, this was the one that actually made me go, all right, I see why people were talking about it. I see why I got to actually give this a shot. And I do have like another minor thing. I wonder if would the Senator have like pressed charges on Dooku? That probably. Because that did assault a senator. But then again, maybe the whole thing should be just swept under the rug, considering what the senator had done as well.
From what I understand, it's Disney canon, so who even knows anymore?
Yeah, it's hard.
But basically, the authority that the Jedi have is from the Supreme Chancellor.
Ah.
So everything that they can do is kind of like in the purview of the Supreme Chancellor. So could he press charges? Yeah. But I mean, he was trying to kill like civilians and stuff, so it wouldn't go anywhere, I don't think.
Probably not. I mean, it's, like I said, very minor. But anyway, let's go on to the next Dooku episode, which is very interesting because they actually trust us regarding time skips. They just do it through how Dooku looks.
Yes.
So he's now older, he's got a beard, and...
Which episode is this? Is this the council
This is the
one?
next one.
Yeah.
So this is one with Mace Windu.
Yeah, council episode.
Yeah. So basically we learn pretty quickly that Dooku's on an assignment. A very simple assignment. Alright?
It really doesn't make you like Windu, does it?
No!
They really like making you not like him.
Yeah, because... Essentially.
Citizen.
Yeah. So we open with a Jedi has been murdered, and their job is to go retrieve the body. That's it. But Dooku's not convinced. Dooku is a little...
Delivery man, basically.
Yeah, Dooku's not... he's not about that. He senses something's off about the whole story of how this Jedi Master was killed. And he's just constantly going through these notes, and Mace Windu is essentially going, what are you doing that for? I mean, it's just a simple assignment. Everyone's investigated it. What could you possibly offer? And
so condescending.
Very much so.
It's just like you understand why Anakin just has such a problem with Mace and why they have a problem with each other. It's because he's just very unlikable.
He's very by the books, and it's almost to his detriment. I think even Dooku says that.
That makes you unlikable.
Yeah. Because Dooku goes, your devotion to to protocol is both inspiring and maddening.
Yeah, maddening, yeah.
Yeah, so he was... Already, you can tell these two have another different dynamic, and it's a lot more passive-aggressive, I suppose would be the word.
Yeah.
Rather than downright, friendship. And... honestly, I was with Dooku throughout most of this. I want to know why this Jedi Master was killed. It's a very interesting thing, because Jedi Masters don't just die.
Yeah.
The fact that they had no answers for it, and that it just was a bunch of random terrorists on this planet, something's clearly was going on. So, but, as usual, Mace Windu wants to stick to the protocol, but Dooku doesn't, because...
Of course he doesn't. I didn't. Nobody did.
No, yeah. Because Dooku, as soon as he gets to talk to the senator who was there, he immediately starts laying on the questions and starts investigating as best he can. And they both pick up. Even Mace Windu goes later, alright, he's clearly hiding something. We should probably go talk to the council.
Yeah.
But what does Dooku do?
Well, I mean, what are you going to say to the council? Something's happened here. Should we investigate? I mean, just investigate.
Yeah. And that's what Dooku decides to do. He's like, I want to go to the crime scene. Take me there.
Yeah.
So they do it, which it's very interesting that they do it. I wonder how they really thought they were going to get away with it, these groups.
Well, the thing was, before the war broke out, Jedi dying, especially like that, is very rare.
Yeah.
It's not like... To ambush a Jedi... It doesn't happen very often.
No.
It wasn't until the war that Jedi started actually, dropping like flies in battle. Very rare. So for a Jedi to, die like that and then they'd be sent there, of course they're going to investigate. Because it ain't normal.
Yeah, and what I find interesting is just how... I don't know if this is a flaw, but Windu definitely doesn't want to go that mile that Dooku wants to. And it seems...
Well, again, it's by the books. It's more like, well, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
I haven't been...
maybe.
I haven't been told to do this, so I don't really want to do this.
Yeah. But anyway, they get to the crime scene, and we see... Well, Dooku puts the pieces together really quickly.
Yeah.
Especially with where the ship ended up being landed.
Yeah.
And he was wondering, okay, how? How is this possible that the firing was coming from that direction, but your ship is fine?
Yeah.
And it's interesting, though, because Mace Windu, we've been complaining about him a little bit, but he gets in on it as well.
Yeah, well, he's not gonna just stand there and be like, oh, I'll catch you in a bit. No, of course he's gonna help.
So he does help. So it does show that there is still a respect between the two, if not a disagreement of methods.
I don't know if it would be respect, though, because I'm sure that there's somewhere in the Jedi code, like, you have to help if your other Jedi is fighting
Maybe. I like to interpret
a bunch of, like, terrorists.
I like to interpret it as respect, because, I mean, Dooku seems to respect him, so why wouldn't Mace Windu feel the same way?
I guess, yeah.
Because Dooku was always a bit of a, as I understand it, roguish in his nature. He was always effective.
Yeah.
One of the most effective Jedi they've ever had.
Yeah, well, all the effective Jedi seem to be rogues.
Yeah. Which is interesting. But where the two start to depart in this scene, in this exchange, is when Dooku outwardly becomes aggressive and he ignites his saber really quickly and is like, tell me what happened.
Yeah.
And
but this is the thing, it gets the answer. Like,
it does.
What are they going to do? They can just keep saying, no, we didn't know anything, we didn't do anything.
And that's what's
but
the
Dooku gets the answer instantly. It's like, it works.
Yeah, it's the most interesting part of this show. Yeah, Dooku's methods are a bit, out there.
Yeah.
They're a bit direct.
Yeah.
But it does work. And it makes you wonder... It makes you really think about all the flaws that the Jedi Order have. Because they're trying to always skirt this line between pleasing everyone as peacekeepers, but it doesn't work.
It makes them very less effective in so many situations. And especially when they're supposed to be peacekeepers and they can't even be aggressive.
Yeah.
It's like, well, okay, who's going to respect your authority if you can't really do anything?
Exactly. And eventually, it leads to a fight, and the senator is killed because he says it's the guards that did it.
Yeah.
And it's pretty standard stuff. A fight happens. Dooku absolutely takes care of business.
Yeah.
And I really love how they've animated his fighting style.
Yeah.
We got to see a lot more of it, and it's just...
I noticed that the lightsabers in this one are a mix between Rebels and Clone Wars. In Clone Wars, they're very thick, which I like.
Yep.
In Rebels, they're like little noodles, which...
You like them thick sabers.
Well, I don't like the little thin noodle ones in Rebels. And in this, they're kind of like a mix.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're thick, sometimes they're thin. It's a bit uneven.
Yeah, Rebels lightsabers were very strange. It's weird to see Vader with just such this little stick coming out of his...
You will fear me. And it's got a little stick.
It's very funny. Anyway, they defeat these guards. And, we learned that Dooku's perspective that was caused by the first episode, it's continued on. We have another corrupt senator. We have another incident of things going really bad with the Republic.
That is true, but remember that the Jedi are far more likely to be on Senate missions.
Yeah.
So it's more he's going to encounter all the corruption with the senators because they're all senator missions for the most part.
Yeah.
Especially when you send on high-ranking Jedi. So it's kind of a bit of a bias for him. Like, he's going to come across it more.
Yeah. And the thing is, I found it interesting that from the beginning with this senator, Dooku suspected him the whole time that he was complicit in something. And he ended up being correct. And it must be... Because I kind of like that they repeated.
You got to remember that they have the Force.
Oh, yeah,
so they can sense something.
Of course. What I just appreciate is because I also saw it as this situation is very similar to the last one, if not different... events. It still involves a corrupt senator. So it does, having that plot point come back in a different way, it gives you that impression that he has seen this again and again and again, and it's just getting frustrating.
Well, you got to remember that Dooku does become the separatist figurehead for the politics side. So, it would make sense that a former Jedi who's seen all the corruption would be the one to lead the separatists.
Exactly, and it really does give that implication. And especially what he says to the guy that he captures, the guard that killed the senator and the Jedi. Dooku essentially has this scene in the prison where he goes, I don't agree with your methods, but I understand why you're this furious.
Yeah.
I do feel hampered down.
Again, it felt like he was jumping to the little guy. Like,
yeah.
The little guy's in trouble now, so now he feels like he has to be on his side.
Which is very interesting.
Because that's a very Jedi thing.
Yeah. It's almost... It's making his turn and his eventual... where he goes a lot more complex than what we could have inferred.
Well, if you've read some of the books and stuff like that, he was always very complex, but they are showing it.
Oh, well, that's even better.
Yeah, I'm happy for, because Dooku's a great character.
Yeah, because I never got that in the books. I've only watched the movies, Clone Wars. In the Attack of the Clones, I always got the implication that he was a little more complex than what he let on.
Yeah.
Especially where he was talking to Obi-Wan's like join me, we can get rid of the Sith and bring a better world. So it's good to see that this is definitely a big part of his character, and we finally got it in a show. And after the prison scene where he tells this leader, don't lose heart, don't let your people lose heart, we get Mace Windu cutting that scene short. And when the conversation taking the coffin out is very interesting, because at first it devolves into a bit of passive-aggressive bantering.
Yeah.
I say bantering with quotations. They seem very annoyed with each other, because Mace Windu disagrees with what Dooku did, but Dooku's like, I can justify myself.
Yeah.
What I did got results.
Yeah.
What I did solved the case.
Yeah.
Now, this Jedi can rest in peace, and it's all good. But Mace Windu's like, yeah, but you let your ego come into it.
It's very important to understand that this is also what happened with Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
When Qui-Gon dies, the Council don't really want to do anything. They don't want to look into it. They just go, oh, he said it was a Sith. He said it was this. They kind of want to move past it as quick as possible, and that's something that sets Dooku off as well.
Yeah, because it's stagnation. I think that's what's going on. They've gotten used to the status quo, and Dooku's not satisfied with that.
Yeah.
And I really like how when Mace is attacking Dooku's methods and all of that, Dooku turns around and really just goes, do you enjoy being like a lapdog? Because that's what we are becoming. Would you be comfortable with that? And Mace goes, no, we've got the Council.
Yeah, and then the thing is, how many years later in the in Clone Wars, I'm pretty sure it's Mace and Yoda talking, and they say something about like, oh, we've become too entangled with the Senate.
Dooku warned them.
He gets there in the end. It's just a long time.
Exactly, and that's the thing. This episode just constantly brings in those moments where Dooku's trust of the Jedi keeps going lower.
Yeah.
And the funeral scene is very interesting, because what happens is it turns out the Jedi's that's passed away, who's been buried, their seat is available. And it was given to Mace.
And this is fascinating, because Dooku has basically just seen, the way he sees it, I feel, is that he's had someone, Mace Windu, who barely did anything, didn't want to look into it, didn't want to do what Dooku considered to be his job as a Jedi, and he got promoted for it.
Yeah.
And Dooku went the extra mile, tried to figure out who did it, tried to stop, terrorists and all this, and he basically, you didn't do it by the book.
Yeah.
So it just further pushes Dooku down that path of the Jedi's way is not working.
No, it's not. And you can tell, like, Dooku does have the ego. Mace was right.
Yeah.
And
but Mace has a giant ego as well.
Of course. I think that definitely comes into play with the whole not being promoted thing. And I'll give Mace credit.
Take a seat, young Skywalker.
I'll give Mace credit for at least offering to talk to the Council about Dooku's position. Which, look...
Yeah, that's like, I've already got the spot. But,
you are very anti-Mace, aren't you?
Every time he's brought into some sort of media, it's always, he's so by the book and so insufferable in situations. So...
Well, that's the thing that was also interesting. With Mace, Dooku didn't really kill any of those guards. Mace did.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so yeah, you're by the books, but you have quite the death count.
Well, I guess it's more like I have the right to defend myself.
Yeah.
Then you'll just cut them up.
Yeah, I suppose, but probably would have been better ways to do it. I don't know, I just find that interesting about Mace Windu. He definitely, he's by the books, but almost to a...
He is, funnily enough, he's the one who uses the pod, which dips into the dark side a bit. So he does have...
Do you want to tell audience what the pod is, for those that don't know?
It's a special technique that Windu actually created, which allows him to basically use the light and the dark side. This is a technique that he absolutely refused to teach Anakin for obvious reasons. So his fighting style is a bit more aggressive. But it's also the reason why he was able to go toe-to-toe with Palpatine.
I see.
Which the movie doesn't really show that much, Revenge of the Sith, but...
the prequels, they got their faults, that's for sure.
Careful now. Careful now.
Hey, it's alright.
They're perfection.
Perfection. Okay. So, essentially, the funeral goes... Dooku has confronted Mace. He's not happy at all. But he, Dooku is a very classy man. He still maintains his composure. Doesn't make a scene. But I love how the actor voiced that last line of the episode with that bitterness of, thank you. And something like, thank you, Master Jedi.
Yeah.
And it's just, the actor's really good. And
the voice actor.
Yeah, the voice actor's fantastic. Just able to channel that Christopher Lee energy. It's
sass.
And the sass, yeah. And, that's that episode. Dooku's been pushed even further. Now, getting to, the other episode, I find it a bit odd. Because we did another time skip. Now, I understand why, because we'll get to the Ahsoka stuff later.
This is the Yaddle one, right?
Yep, this is the Yaddle one, and we have skipped very far ahead.
First of all, we should talk about Yaddle, how she talks. She doesn't talk like Yoda, which caught a lot of people off guard, including myself, actually. She talks normally.
Yeah.
Does that mean Yoda's a psycho just playing with everyone?
Well, maybe.
Well, he wants to sound more mystical, I guess.
He wants to be wiser, and that's how he sees being wise. But yeah, it's very odd. Just, I mean, I didn't mind Yaddle too much with how she was talking. There was enough there, but yeah, I can see why people were a bit.
I can't remember. I know that the comics, or I can't remember what it was. Yaddle's death is different. I know that. I can't remember what it was different though. But it wasn't like this. So this is something new. This is Disney canon new.
Yeah.
How she dies.
Well, I think it adds quite a lot.
Well, if it's in service to Dooku's character, I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind at all. But there's a lot to break down with this episode in particular regarding Dooku. There's so many little conversations and exchanges that just tell us so much that obviously was implied. But again, it's another good thing to see.
This is the one where Dooku he's basically been Palpatine's apprentice.
Yep, he's become it. We open with him deleting the archives on Kamino.
Now, I'm pretty sure that this was Sifo Dyas that did this in canon. It actually, when he went there and ordered the army for the Clone Wars, I'm pretty sure it was Sifo Dyas that actually deleted it. So they changed that as well.
Yeah.
So this time they made it Dooku. So now it's something a bit more insidious.
Yeah.
Because when Sifo Dyas did it, he was doing it to protect the Jedi. And then we learned that it was Dooku who actually tricked Sifo Dyas to his death on one of the moons. I can't remember where.
Yeah,
Pike or something.
Well, it seems like that still might have happened because it's very clear Dooku has offed Sifo Dyas.
Yeah, well,
he's killed him.
That all happened in the Clone Wars, so that's still canon. It's just that little detail of who deleted the archives. It says that was Dooku.
It makes it very clear how things have progressed for Dooku.
Because Qui-Gon's not his apprentice.
No.
So he's been on his own for a while now, and he's just doing what he wants.
In fact, we're in the Phantom Menace now.
Yeah.
In this timeline, and Dooku encounters. There's basically some commotion going on in the council. Well, library. Library.
Something I do wish that we had seen was the first meeting between Darth Sidious and Dooku. Because if I remember correctly, in canon, he meets him. Sidious basically walks into the room, and Dooku immediately realizes and senses that whatever this being is going to talk to him about, if he doesn't agree, he's not going to leave this room alive.
Ooh.
That's how he basically figures out it's Sidious. And that's why he actually agrees to become his apprentice, because he knew that there was no surviving. I wish we had seen something like that.
That's going to come up when we talk about Ahsoka, which, because this is a very short show, as we've already said.
Very short.
But, look, there's a lot of stuff that we get from it. And we get to actually see Qui-Gon as he is in The Phantom Menace. And he's voiced by Liam Neeson, which is even better. I was like, wow, they got him somehow. And there's another voice actor who came back, which was also really good. And they basically, Dooku gets a chance to talk to Qui-Gon, and we see how their perspectives have gone.
Yeah.
And they still agree on quite a bit.
Yeah.
Qui-Gon recognizes just how,
I feel as though he's gotten older and wiser, and he realizes why his master did a lot of the things he did when he was a Padawan. And he's like, I get it now. I get the corruption. I get it all. Yeah. The Jedi, just how they work. No.
Yeah, and Dooku and Qui-Gon still bond over that to the point where Yaddle's like, hey, I represent the Council as someone who represents it. I want to give my 2 cents on this. And she offers some explanation, but Dooku goes and explains really simply, I've been warning about Sith for a long time. I've said that this would happen. No one was listening.
The thing is, it's kind of hard to agree with him at this point.
Yeah.
Because the Sith have been gone for, I think, about 1,000 years at this point.
Oh, yeah, a long time.
They have they haven't seen them in beyond a long time.
Yeah.
So the idea that the Sith have returned, it's very... You can understand why the Council, in this particular case, is like, well,
Well, that's the thing. This show isn't... That's why I respect it so much with these Dooku episodes. It's not black and white. Dooku's not right on everything.
Yeah.
But...
Well, he's right.
He's right in some ways, but you can understand why the Jedi feel the way they feel.
Yeah, especially after Qui-Gon. Like, it's a different story then. Like, obviously the Sith are back. You got to do something.
Yeah. At this point, it's more like, you could have encountered anyone out there in the desert. But Dooku is certain, and we know why he's certain, because
he knows.
He's already hooked up with Palpatine. He's already probably met Maul.
I don't think
maybe not met, actually.
I don't think Maul and Dooku met each other until after during the Clone Wars, when Maul comes back. I don't think they met.
Oh, okay. Alright, fair enough.
Yeah. Oh, now I'm thinking about it.
Yeah?
Because, from what I understand, Dooku didn't become Palpatine's apprentice until after Qui-Gon's death, and that would have been after Maul's death as well.
Oh, yeah.
That's how the timeline should go. Now I'm trying to think. Yeah, that's a bit strange. Because during this time period, Maul is still alive, because Qui-Gon's still alive.
Yeah.
Unless Palpatine's double dipping.
Unless
he just didn't tell him about Maul at this point.
Well, his master Plagueis had like a bunch. Well, actually, he went on his own, and then he had 2. If I believe that, right? Or was
I'm not sure. I am actually not sure about that there. That is something I'm not sure about.
Well, either way, we know that at the very least, Dooku is in an alliance with Sidious.
Yeah.
At that much we know. But anyway, it was nice to see the 2 Qui-Gon and Dooku bond again, and
for the last time.
Yeah. And once that door closes, we get a very... Oh, I love this so much. It's such a simple line, but they grow up so fast.
Yeah.
And it just... Immediately you learn, Dooku saw himself as a father, and Qui-Gon's his kid.
Well, it's the same sort of thing with when Dooku met Kenobi for the first time, because he even talks about it in that conversation. He wants to meet his Padawan, and the first time he meets him is on Geonosis, when he's already turned to the dark side.
Yep.
And he's pretty nice to Obi-Wan, and he tells him the truth.
Yeah, very, very charming. Very... It does... I mean, we'll get into it later on when we get through this episode, because there's a lot to try and figure out regarding Dooku's true motives.
Yeah.
But we then get, like, the Tales of the Jedi opening, and we find Dooku at a tree, and he's very, very miserable.
Yeah.
And we find out Qui-Gon has just died, and Dooku's talking about how he used to take Qui-Gon to this tree.
Well, that tree is the one. It's the one from the Clone Wars in the last couple of episodes before Disney cancelled it.
Yeah.
Where Yoda sees Dooku again.
Yeah.
When he has his visions, he sees Dooku
Oh,
at that
yeah,
tree.
I remember that.
Yeah, and it's so it's.
It definitely has meaning.
Yeah, it must be an important tree.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely important to Dooku in this episode, because that's where he was willing to take Qui-Gon whenever he asked, and it brought joy to Qui-Gon. So it's the last bit of his memory with Qui-Gon there. And we see Yaddle come in and basically say, doesn't directly say it, but is very sorry for his loss and asks him to come to the funeral, but Dooku just cannot bring himself to go, because he blames the Council. Because the Council didn't listen.
I mean, you can see why.
Absolutely can see why, but Dooku doesn't feel that way at all. He's very furious about the whole.
Well,
thing.
he's already down the path. He's pretty much down the path at this point. He's gone. He's going to the dark side.
Yeah.
So whether he's right or wrong doesn't matter. He just how he feels is important.
Exactly, and I think that's the thing I find fascinating. We really get insight into how he feels about Qui-Gon's death, more so than we got in the prequels, and you get an implication there. But here, it's just so much more, a bit more heart-wrenching. Especially when he goes and says something like this: Qui-Gon has become one with the Force, it's time to let him go.
Yeah.
And Yaddle just goes, can you handle that?
Mm.
And I love hearing this line where he just goes, what choice do I have?
Yeah, what am I going to do, bring him back?
Yeah. Wow.
Anakin tries that.
Well, sequels.
Oh my god. This is a positive video.
We're trying to be positive. And hey, these episodes of Dooku are really strong. Yaddle must have sensed something after this scene.
Yeah.
And she decides to follow Dooku. Yeah. And I really find it interesting that after hearing...
Oh, well, no.
No, go on.
No, I was thinking about the timeline, because it's right when he dies. So maybe Palpatine and Dooku have met. Oh, but they did it... He deleted the archives at the start of the episode. Yeah,
it's a bit of a muddled...
I'm trying to make sense of the timeline here.
Yeah, it's a muddled timeline. Show's not perfect. No shock with Disney. But we'll address that soon. With Yaddle following Dooku, definitely must have sensed something. I don't know what exactly. Maybe just that feeling that he's really angry, or is it... Because I'm not entirely sure what sets her to follow.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, like, why would you follow?
Yeah, that's what I'm a little unclear on.
Maybe she sensed the dark side, but even if she did, why would you follow? Like,
just
talk to him when he gets back.
Exactly. But either way, she follows him, and Dooku has gone straight to Sidious. And I find it very interesting that he does it calmly, of course, but he basically tells Palpatine, "What have you done?
Yeah.
You have really...
Yeah.
You had more kill... Basically, my son."
Yeah.
And it's funny how you get to see Palpatine manipulate the situation really quick. It's like, well, we both did.
Yeah, because genuinely... it's hard to say genuinely with Palpatine.
No, he's not genuine.
But Palpatine did raise Maul from a very young Zabrak boy.
Yeah.
And what feelings does Palpatine have?
Yeah.
I don't know, but he did view him...
There's something there.
Yeah, a bit fondly, at the very least.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like he lost something as well. And especially because he had a lot of plans for Maul.
Oh, yeah.
So he was basically like, okay, I've got no apprentice, I've got no master, I got to do something.
Yeah. And it's funny because Palpatine really just goes instantly into, oh, well, it's for a better future. It's for a greater purpose. It's interesting that Dooku is just not at that point where he's completely committed. Obviously, after what happens, he does. Because he's really broken by the whole fact.
Yeah.
And, it was so good as a Star Wars fan to get this, where Dooku turns around and says, Qui-Gon could have been a powerful ally. And what does Palpatine say?
There's something really important about this.
Yeah?
Dooku had this sort of mentality all throughout the Clone Wars. Like, when they defeat the Jedi, they're going to have, like, an army of Sith. This was Dooku's sort of, like, plan. Sidious was never on board with it.
Never.
Sidious never wanted, like, multiple masters, multiple apprentices. He just wanted one apprentice.
And why?
Well, what do you mean why? Rule
Tell
2.
them. Exactly. That's why.
Yeah.
That's why he went, because he says, for you.
Yeah, but...
Powerful ally for you. Because and Dooku then goes into saying, what, you distrust me? Which kind of leads into...
Yeah, it's just... I'm sort of on Dooku, with Dooku on this one. Like,
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you revive, like, a Sith
Yeah.
army? And they sort of do that with the Inquisitors anyway.
Yeah,
eventually.
sort of.
But Dooku, right from the beginning, thought it was going to be like a full... The Sith Empire was coming back type of deal.
Yeah.
And Palpatine was just like, oh, I'm never about that life.
No. And the reason is, Sidious wants to keep the power in his hands.
He
and
wants all the
he's
power,
also... given what he did to Plagueis, a bit paranoid.
Yeah.
So I find that very interesting how he's just always like, I will always distrust you.
Yeah.
Because that is the way of things.
Yeah.
Because, let's be real, the Sith destroyed each other.
Yeah.
When they got in great numbers, there was just civil war after civil war, and...
Yeah.
So it would be hard to maintain it unless you do... I suppose Dooku had a good idea by having them all be lesser.
Yeah. That's kind of how it was. You had the Dark Council back in the Old Republic, stuff like that. It kind of worked.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of the Sith to fight.
Yeah. But throughout this conversation, we also get... We hear it. Dooku is very bothered by the horrible things he has had to do.
Yeah.
And the implication is he has gone very far now.
Well, because he's even now and until... I can't remember what season. It'll probably be like 3 or 4 of the Clone Wars. He very much feels that he can control the dark side. He feels like he can control his own darkness.
I might know the point where that happens. It's when he tries to off Ventress.
Yeah,
that might be it.
That's sort of where, like, around that area is where...
Yeah. Cause
he controls the darkness and he uses it for his own ends, but he's not really, like, a maniacal Sith. Like Palpatine. But it's after that, he's sort of... He's all in.
Yeah, I could buy that. And it is, like I said, it's just fascinating to hear him just be that haunted by what he's done.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I got the vibe that he was almost between... almost wanting to leave at this point.
Oh, I don't think so. I think
No?
with Qui-Gon gone, he's like, I'm all for this now. Like, let's just go. Yeah.
Yeah? Yeah, because he's bringing it up quite a lot, though.
Because remember, when Yaddle arrives...
Yeah.
At first, he's kind of like, oh, I don't really want to. But then all of a sudden, he gets into it. And he's like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. It's probably because he believes in that cause that much.
Yeah.
That he and Palpatine, or maybe even just him, because he has wanted to destroy Palpatine. We get that in Attack of the Clones. I think he was being genuine there.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I want to get rid of Palpatine.
Yeah.
So, it is clear that he's got some... Well, right now he has to tread that dark path.
Yeah.
And it's the only real way to do it. So when Yaddle presents herself, yeah, I think the choice is made.
Yeah.
Because you can't live.
Yeah.
You can't give me away. You can't give this guy away.
Yeah.
Because you'll disrupt the plan. Yeah. And he's seen too much.
And the problem is, even if he joined him, Palpatine would just kill them both.
Yeah, Palpatine's an absurdly powerful Sith.
Yeah.
Not so much powerful to the point.
Yeah, Yaddle is not on the level of, like, Yoda.
No. Yeah, I think though the problem with this scene is what we alluded to earlier, because I think it's time to talk about it. There is so much missing. A lot of pieces, just how they met, why exactly Dooku is now devoutly on Palpatine's side.
I think they did a good enough job. Because remember, you got to remember, it's for general audiences.
Yeah, I suppose.
It's filling in the gaps for the general audience. So I can... If I didn't know as much as I did, I reckon it'd be alright. I reckon I could get it.
Yeah, I mean, all I'm saying is it would be cool to have more.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
Yeah. They do enough of a good job with the previous episodes showing the corruption in the Senate and the issues with the Jedi Order.
But they showed that in the Clone Wars as well.
Yeah, I know that. Just trying to go just with this.
Yeah.
So it does enough to convince you as to why he does what he does with Yaddle.
Yeah, I think they should have spent longer on Qui-Gon's death. I feel like they should have been like a full episode of something that really kicks him down that path.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen it. It's not a bad thing we didn't get it. It's just it would clarify a few things. What I did find interesting, though, is that during the fight, yeah, it's a glorious fight. It's really, it's better than anything you're getting in the live action stuff, I'll tell you that much.
By a country yard.
Yep. I did find it interesting that Yaddle even was like, yeah, I see your point.
Yeah.
There's problems,
This is the
massive
thing.
problems.
Even the Jedi who aren't corrupted or anything like that, even they're like, something's not right, you know.
Yeah.
Why are we like at the beck and call of the Senate? Something's not.
Yeah, and she did it to the point where she resigned her seat
Yeah.
on the council, which was very interesting. And I think that alone makes it even harder for Dooku to actually commit.
Yeah.
Because this is someone that could easily be on his side.
But again, Palpatine's like, I'm not about that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just me and you, boy.
And that whole idea of Dooku wanting people on his side, I guess that's just that part of him that is more Jedi-like. Wanting alliances, wanting essentially maybe friends.
Wanting friends.
That's one way to put it. Or it's wanting pawns. Seeing a very useful pawn.
He understands that we can use an army of Sith. And Palpatine obviously sees that because that's what the Inquisitors become eventually. So,
which I don't think Disney added that in. That wasn't always the case. There weren't really Inquisitors before. So it's a bit of a question when regarding the Inquisitors. I will say that. Yeah, so Dooku's not swayed by the pleas, and eventually, fight continues, and we get Dooku crushing her with a door.
Well, the first time's a fake out.
Yeah, but the thing is, there's a really good reaction there, where Dooku collapses onto his knees after he's done it.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing that's a mix of being tired, and a mix of being kind of distraught as to what he's had to do.
Yeah, because
it's just another one on top of what he's already done.
Yeah.
And it's tough, but he gets what he wants, which is Palpatine goes, alright, you've done well.
Yeah.
You can pretty much stick the landing, you can stay.
Yeah.
But, things are not that easy, and Yaddle lifted the door back up and comes back out and pleads one more time, but this time Dooku is, I guess he's hardened his heart against it now, and he just goes for it.
He's made up his mind, for sure.
Yeah. And, he kills Yaddle, and he's just fully down the dark path now.
Yep.
And that's essentially where it ends for the Dooku stuff. Yeah. And it was quite a journey. And these are all really short episodes, and they gave us so much.
It's crazy. It's short episodes, but it's all the stuff that you love in Star Wars. I genuinely recommend watching it. It's good.
Yeah, watch those episodes. It's they're fantastic. I mean, we'll go over some of the Ahsoka stuff. There's not really much to say. Not really.
It's just you can feel that they're pushing Star Wars in Ahsoka's direction. You can feel that they want her to be the main character. The episodes with Ahsoka weren't bad at all. They weren't bad at all.
No, I'd say they were pretty good. They would be good Clone Wars episodes.
Yeah, good Clone Wars. It's just, it felt like, why?
Because I'll essentially explain why. One of them is about her mother taking her on a hunt when she's a 1-year-old. And then we find out she's Force sensitive. Okay.
Why?
Episode, the 5th one, which featured, and which this was bizarrely paced.
6th one, isn't it?
No, because it goes, episode 1 is Ahsoka, 3 are Dooku, and then the other 2 are Ahsoka.
Because there's one with her fighting the Sith, and there's one with her training with Anakin.
Exactly.
I thought they were the same episode.
Now, the thing is, I understand that completely, because the training with Anakin was really unnecessary to see.
Yeah, it's something that...
And I know why it's there. It's to try and fill a little bit of a criticism that people had with Season 7, which is how she survived getting surrounded by those clones.
I would never have asked that, because do you think Anakin could have survived that? Yeah.
Possibly?
Yeah.
Possibly? Yeah.
Anakin has trained since he's been a little boy, non-stop. He's obsessive about his saber combat. I think...
I just don't think this was a big enough criticism to warrant a whole episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I know that was a criticism.
That did not break my belief in Star Wars. Having her deflect all those
and
things.
Escape Order 66. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
I don't know why we had to see it. Look, I appreciate that we saw a female character fail again and again and again and wasn't perfect. I'll give you that. But at the same time, did we really need it? And then there's episode 6 as well, which was the one that was advertised the most with that Sith that looked like had a raven mask and that Inquisitor.
Yeah, I was skimming through that stuff. It's just I wasn't interested. To be
Yeah,
honest.
the thing is, that episode really wasn't... we weren't too big on that one either. It seems like you weren't.
Yeah.
Because it... Again, it's stuff you can really just pick up in your head. I was getting a lot of... what's the movie called? El Camino vibes? You know, seen El Camino?
Not yet.
Well, Breaking Bad...
Yeah,
El Camino's like that.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
I just haven't seen it yet.
It was pretty much that. Where you get... You know why. The whole point of that episode is just to take Ahsoka from being an outcast to being back into the rebellion. That's really it.
It wasn't really needed.
It wasn't. And
an extra episode on Dooku's death, on Qui-Gon's death, would have been way more.
honestly, I would have gone further. I would have just made the whole thing about Dooku.
Yeah, obviously, I would prefer if the whole thing was just about Dooku. It's just if they're gonna put some Ahsoka stuff in, at least one of those could have at least been dedicated to Qui-Gon's death.
Yeah.
For Dooku to really turn.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's the thing. Look, I did like seeing Padme's funeral, and I did appreciate that Ahsoka snuck in and got there.
Yeah.
And got to talk to Bale for a bit. But, again, this is all stuff you could have inferred. You don't need to dedicate a whole episode of something, especially when we had 3 in a row, really strong episodes on Dooku. It just doesn't feel necessary.
It's still good, and
it's still good.
It's still worth watching, and it's miles above Kenobi.
Yes,
and Boba. So don't get me wrong. We may be saying, they're a bit unnecessary, but
it's only because we love the Dooku stuff so much.
It's still good, and it's still worth watching. It's just
and Ahsoka fans, you get to see her take out a really cool looking Inquisitor,
and you get to see her upcoming show as well.
And you do get to get a little bit of a tease for that. And I suppose you get a little bit of Empire loyalist talk, but it's very thin. And the Empire just do what they always do, unfortunately, which is just sack a whole village.
Yeah.
But honestly, for Tales of the Jedi, I still recommend it. The Dooku episodes alone are worthy of checking it out.
I recommend it. It's good.
Yeah, give it a shot if you want that Star Wars itch. It was so nice to not have bloody stormtroopers. I am so sick of seeing stormtroopers get cut down so easily. So I'm glad we didn't have it.
I'm just happy we're getting prequel era content.
Yeah,
with
same.
Jedi and lightsabers.
Yeah, I know.
Finally.
Yeah. Anyway, that's our review, and as always, stay on watch.